Hey y'all. I've started a new YouTube channel where I cook foods from video games, bringing the console to the kitchen. There's a link in the description, and if you like what you see, I'd be real appreciative if you subscribed. Let's get baked at Dakon's Bakehouse. Hey there, lunatics. Today we are doing a special little video. I'm actually doing a reaction video, something that I've never really done before, so I apologize if I'm awful at it. But my friend Redria recently had an interview with Corekeeper's composer, Jonathan Gear, and I hope I pronounced that right, Jonathan. I apologize if I didn't. So here I am. I'm watching it for the first time. This happened on Twitch a couple weeks ago, and I was sorry that I missed it live, but I really wanted to check it out, and I want you guys to check it out as well, because I think that one of the things I haven't done a good job of is promoting the music of Corekeeper. I've done a lot of stuff with Corekeeper over the last few years, but talking about the music has not been one of them, because I'm not really a musician, and I don't pay too close attention to the music. I like the music. Everything about Corekeeper's music is amazing, and I think that it's high time that it get some of the attention that it properly deserves. So let's take a look at this interview, and yeah, let's react to it together at the same time. If you are a member of my YouTube channel, then you are going to have access to the full unedited reaction. The version that is being made right now for the public, if you're just watching this, is edited down to make it a little bit, shorter, a little bit easier to digest. But if you do want to see the full unedited reaction, then please feel free to join my YouTube membership. There will be a copy of the video there. It's also going to be available on my Patreon.
All right, so we are here today to talk to Jonathan Gear. Right now we're talking about the Corekeeper soundtrack, but I know you've worked on other games, and someone was even looking at your IMDb and found some TV shows in your history. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I know nothing about
I
Give me your
grew
resume.
up in Texas and started, doing music when I was about 10 years old, I'd say. Started taking piano lessons, and I guess I started like kind of late with music in general. But once I got into it, it was like that was it. Like I knew like what I wanted to.
I'm sorry, you're saying you started taking lessons at 10 years old, and you say that that's getting into it late? What? I mean, I played cello when I was 10 years old, yeah, but I never thought I was getting into it late. I thought that was like early. And I don't play cello anymore. I haven't played cello in frickin' 25 years, but all right, man. No, 10 years old isn't early. I love that you think that it, or isn't late. I love that you think that it is, but no. That's still childhood, bro.
Do. I was just playing piano, and as soon as I started playing, I started just kind of making up my own stuff, and of course I'd been into video games as a kid with the NES, and I think we even had an Atari at my grandmother's house, playing some of those like early Atari like Olympic like track and field kind of games, and but yeah, so I always had video games in my life growing up, and I ended up majoring actually in college in film scoring. But then, and I've done a little bit of film here and there, and I have had some music like in I guess quite a few different TV shows. But those all that music comes through what are called music libraries, and so it's just kind of like a piece here and a piece there, like going into different shows. I haven't really like scored like a whole television show with just my music before, but that's cool. I love like seeing where the music ends up and how it gets used and stuff. And but yeah, so I majored in film scoring, and then just ended up more in the video game world, which I love because I feel like there's so much music and so much good music, and really music of like every conceivable genre like happening in the video game world. So there's like so much opportunity.
It's true. The video game world is very eclectic. I feel like there's something for everybody. There's hard rock, there's this, old school like classical kind of stuff. There's lots of instrumentals. There's there's pretty much everything for every musical taste you'll find in a video game somewhere, which is something I really like, that video games are just so diverse that you can get so much out of them from a music standpoint. It's really a great medium to apply songs to.
Opportunity to do like really fun creative stuff. So I'm not mad that I ended up in the video game world instead of the film world. But yeah, so that's just a little brief overview. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely would not be mad about being in the video game realm myself.
Yeah.
So that means you do play video games, and did that hobby stick with you as you grew older? And if so, what genres do you like, and do you have some favorite games?
Yeah, it's definitely stuck with me throughout my life. I did, my husband and I did adopt a couple kids over the past like 5.5 years ago. We adopted our daughter, and then our son like 2.5 years after that. So I'm going somewhere with this. So my video game playing time has been decreased a bit, but I'm starting to get back, and I'll go through spells where I don't really play a whole lot. But actually, I just started playing recently again. I'm playing like after we put the kids to bed, I'll play for an hour or two. I've been playing this one, the Expedition 33,
Yep.
which is great. I'm really loving that one.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about Expedition 33. I really want to play it. I just can't afford it right now, so maybe soon we'll be able to get it. You're not playing Corekeeper, Jonathan? Jonathan? Why are you not playing Corekeeper? Hmm? Hmm? Hmm?
Just all the aesthetics and actually the music is really great too in that one. And then the Altars I started a few days ago, which is also super fun, very
The
unique.
Altars? I don't know that
Unique game. Kind of it's like a sci-fi like exploration. And you're the last guy who's been stranded on the ship trying to like make your way back home, but then you have to like make copies of yourself to get everything done. But they really like go all in on the theme and how it works with the game mechanics. And yeah,
I like that idea, the Altars. We're gonna have to try that game out sometime. Thanks, Jonathan, for the tip. I love sci-fi games, so any chance to play a brand new kind of sci-fi game, I am all for it. So
yeah, so genre-wise, I love like a good, I love all the classic like Nintendo franchises, all the Zelda and Mario games, and so I love a good platformer and good kind of adventure game like the Zelda games. And then I just played through Astrobot with my daughter not too long ago, which was super fun. I feel like that's like the PlayStation's new Mario.
Yeah,
super cool. Like the boss fights were great, the levels were great, like the music, like everything was just pure joy in that game.
So you mentioned that you started your musical adventure on piano. Did you pick up any other instruments?
I not really. I played some French horn and band, and I did that all the way through high school, like from middle school through high school. But I didn't really stick with it like beyond the high school level. And then I like to sing, and I've actually sung on some video game soundtracks that I've done for this cooking game series. But even that, like I always hesitate to call myself like a professional like singer. But so really piano.
I'm sorry. If you have sung a song and that song has been published, whether it's in a video game or not, especially now, did you get paid? If you got paid, you're a professional singer. Doesn't matter if it's only one song. We got tons of major artists out here who are one-hit wonders and are getting paid for, only one decent song, and the rest of it was absolutely crap. So don't sell yourself short, Mr. Gear. Don't sell yourself short, sir.
And it was like my main instrument, and the one I feel comfortable telling people that I can play. And I've kind of dabbled around on some other things, and even used some stuff for recording. But like when I play guitar, I literally have to record it like a bar or two at a time. Like I'm that's the one other instrument I really wish I could play like proficiently would be the guitar, just because it's so portable and flexible. And You can do a lot with it, and easy to take with you. And I've kind of started a few times, and then
Here's how you do it, man. Now, I don't play guitar, but here's how you do it. You teach your kids how to play guitar. And then teaching your kids will teach you. And since you don't have any free time anyway, because you have kids, this allows you to both spend time with your children and teach them things. So there you go. That's how you learn guitar.
So I'm curious then, and this is something I probably should ask Donut Shoes as well, but what kind of composition software do you use when you are composing? Do you usually compose the full score first in something like Finale or Notepad and then recreate it digitally, or do you take an approach without sheet music?
I'd say probably 98% of the time. I don't know. Pretty much always, I'm just working in Logic Pro. I've got a Mac Studio, which I actually pretty recently just upgraded the computer. So yeah, working on Logic Pro with just lots of different plugins, and yeah, usually I'll just create in there and not really use notation. Every once in a while, if I get something that's real like contrapuntal, I really want to see. I mean, Logic has like a notation section, a window, but it's pretty garbage. Like, so you don't really want to mess with it. So I use Dorico. I used to use I started with Finale, and then way back when switched to Sibelius, and then eventually switched to Dorico a few years ago. So I use that for my notation. But usually
I'm curious, for those of you who are musicians, what do you use to do your music composing on? I used to do IT at a high school here in New Orleans, and the high school had an entire music program. Like you could spend your entire 4 years at the unit or at the high school focused entirely on music, and we used Finale. That was what I always had to keep uploaded into the computers for everyone. But they also used the built-in Apple program. So all the composing stuff that came with Apple, which I don't remember the names of because I never had to deal with them.
So when scoring for Corekeeper, what was the process like working with Pugstorm on it? Did they give you information for composing different themes for each area? Did you get any concept art, descriptions, or target lengths, etc.?
Yeah, when I very first started with them, I'm trying to remember when that was. At very end of 2021, beginning of I think it was beginning of 2022, maybe. We started. There was a they had a good amount of art and descriptions and and links for the tracks. We started out originally. Well, at the very beginning, I just kind of experimented with different ideas and just for the sound of the music, and so I have lots of like little early experimentation files on my computer still that I do know stuff that wasn't used in the game.
I would love to hear those. Now, I don't know if we're going to hear them later in the interview or not, if I'm jumping the gun, but I would love to hear some of those early versions of Corekeeper music that didn't make the cut. I think that would be really cool.
Stuff I was just kind of working on to figure out the sound, and but once we kind of had the sound figured out, probably for the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 tracks, they were fairly short. They were around like between a minute and minute and a half each. And then once I'd done those, and I was kind of like, really on board with the team and the game, they started extending the tracks to closer to like 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes for each track, and having 3 to 4 tracks per biome. And but yeah, once I'd been on board for a few months, I could there was lots of art, and I'm on the Discord channel for Pugstorm, for the developer, and they're posting every day all sorts of stuff in there and like new art that they're working on. And but I was able to go in into Unity and test out the game and different things, and which I haven't been doing as much anymore because so I started out doing just the music for the game, and then I think around like October 2022 they hired me on more as like an on-retainer employee to do both the music and the sound effects for the game. So that's when I started kind of getting into Unity.
That's something I didn't really consider, that the musician might also do the sound effects. Because a lot of sound effects for games, sound effects for games are interesting how they're put together. And it does kind of make sense that you would have the musician do it. Because there's lots of weird things that you can do to create sound effects that just you would not necessarily guess is how the sound effect came about, like you get the sound of rotting flesh and bones being torn and stuff, and then you see the actual video and it's someone just like breaking a gourd in half, and technically that is the sound of flesh ripping and stuff like that, because it's plant flesh, but it's still flesh. So yeah, anyway, sound effects are interesting, and that's kind of cool. I like that the composer is also doing some sound effects. I feel like that can give some balance, where you're like, oh, here's the music that I've got going. How do I make sound effects that will stand out against the music, but also complement the music? It could be interesting
to implement the sound effects and stuff more. So, but yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. My next question is, did you have any specific inspiration for the Corekeeper soundtrack? Aside from, being able to play the game to see what it was actually like, was there anything else that inspired you?
For this one, sometimes I will have a specific inspiration for a track. I'd say most of the Corekeeper inspiration came directly from the game itself. There was a few. I know one track I didn't have it as a conscious idea when I started the track, but then I was playing around with it and I had this like little melody in there that was like very reminiscent of Final Fantasy. And I honestly thought when I sent the track over to the team, they're going to be like, no, you can't do that. That's just straight up ripping it off.
Oh no!
But because I was kind of like, this sounds a lot like maybe too much like Final Fantasy. But it sounded really good in the track, and I liked it. And I was kind of waiting to see how the team would react. And I think by that time the team had been growing, and so there's enough people. I was like, I feel like my sample size of people is pretty good. So if people like hear it and they're like, I don't know, but literally like nobody commented at all on it. I was like, well, maybe it's okay then.
Maybe it's alright then.
It's the I think it was on the light traveling track.
Okay.
And probably, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds into the track, there's something that to me is like totally Final Fantasy. So sometimes some of that kind of stuff creeps in there.
Hey man, don't worry about it. You say that good artists borrow and great artists steal outright. So it's not a big deal. You pull a couple of riffs here and there, as long as it's your own music in the end. I mean, if Vanilla Ice could get away with flat out ripping off Queen, then I think you can get away with a couple of bars from a Final Fantasy song.
And sometimes I'll a lot of times I'll have just inspiration from different classical and romantic composers, and I've even not in Corekeeper, but in some other games, I've even quoted public domain classical tunes, like a little motif or something, like here and there, and like some of the tracks. And but yeah, I'd say for Corekeeper was mostly just inspired from the game, and I did have one other track that I was kind of inspired by one of the Castlevania, early Castlevania game tracks, and that was. I think it's called Living Walls is the Corekeeper track.
Okay.
And that one had a little bit of Castlevania inspiration.
We're gonna have to check that one out too. Living Walls. That sounds like Urschleim's music, or maybe Passage music, perhaps. Oh no, Living Walls is a clay biome one. That makes sense. Living Walls would be when you get into the Hive area.
Alright, so it's good to know a lot of the inspiration comes from being able to play the game itself and feel it for yourself. And then some of it, a little bit of it, snuck in from other video games. Question, was the process for composing any of the boss fight themes different from the biomes? Because those are the ones that I don't actually keep in my chill listening playlist, because the vibe's very different.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah, it was. I'd say process-wise, it wasn't really any different, but yeah, as you said, like the vibe was completely different. It's kind of like because once we found the sound like for the game, it was like very just kind of cozy and pleasant and soothing. Like for the most part, all the biome music, even if what's happened in the game is not necessarily like so pleasant if you're like in some mob of enemies, but all the biome music itself is just like pretty relaxing, and so it's yeah, totally different when you get to the the boss fights. But yeah, process wise, it was very similar, yeah, but just going in a totally different direction though with the actual music itself.
Of course, that makes sense. It's boss music. It's got to be action packed. It's got to be, driven. It's got to pump you up and give you energy because you're about to fight the boss, man. Totally different kind of vibe.
Did they have you fight any of the bosses?
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, I've played I don't know, so like would say a decent amount of the game just without. But once I started doing the sound effects and music too, like I was able to go into Unity, and I would have all like the developer cheat code, so I can just be like, player super strong, player invincible, so I could just try out everything.
Cheater.
Otherwise, I'd probably take
Cheater.
a lot longer to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame
So I
you.
can kind of teleport around
too.
or just summon like the little boss area and test things out, which is super fun. But yeah, so I was able to test them all out, and honestly, that was more for the sound effects and like doing all the timing of that and seeing how that interacts with everything.
Right. Yeah, it's really cool to know that you did a lot of the the sound work as well as the music for this game. I don't know if I knew that going into today.
I want to know how we got the squishy
Yeah, but I mean,
noises.
I haven't really done like a ton of
fun to
like
hear
sound
sloppy,
design work
squishy
for
stuff.
the other games I've worked on. It's it just kind of happened. I was I've been working on the music for a while, and they're like, "Hey, would you maybe want to make our sounds like a little better too?" And I was like, "Sure." But yeah, I did most of the sounds on Owlboy too. But most of the other stuff I've worked on, it's just been the music. But yeah, that's a totally different process though, and one I'm still kind of learning about. But yeah, it's been super fun to have the opportunity to work on that skill set as well with Corekeeper.
So, may have hinted at this earlier, but which biome in the game is your favorite? Is it the crystal biome?
I think it is. Like I was kind of trying to decide between. I mean, it's very hard. I don't know. I'm honestly like terrible with favorites. Just in general, like give me your top 10 movies or this or that. I'm like, oh, it's so hard to choose. But if I had to choose, I would probably go with the Shimmering Frontier. I'm kind of it's just so beautiful.
Feel you, man. It's tough to choose on favorites and stuff. I get asked all the time to rank Tinkerlands, Corekeeper, Terraria, and Necess. And I'm like, really, guys? You want me to rank those 4 games? Like, obviously, Corekeeper is going to be number 1, but they're not comparable enough. They all have their own things that they do best and their own things that they do worst. And yeah, there's pros and cons to everything. It's hard to rank something when it's like practically equal, just different, So I get it. It's tough to rank.
It really is.
Yeah, and that was really fun. Just everything. Like I love the whole vibe, and I love doing the music for it, and it was really fun to do the sound effects too. Like everything was, that would be my favorite. It is hard to choose though, but
It is hard to choose. Do you often end up using musical motif in your work? I did notice a small callback motif between Return and Echo of the Past, and I didn't know if that was a regular thing that you tried to utilize.
I'll try to do that here and there, especially like that one was like the end credit song, and I think actually more of that one even was I think now it's just like the track that just is one of the first biome tracks, like the dirt biome.
This is where my lack of musical knowledge comes in a little bit. What is a motif, and what are they talking about right now? I'm not entirely sure. I'm guessing that means like putting some music from a previous song, like a section of notes from the previous song into a new song as like a callback, like, oh, this song is related to that other song, like, oh, here's the intro song, and now we're going to do the end credit song, and the end credit song is going to have some of the music from the intro song, but it's a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what are they talking about right now. This is what I'm guessing, but educate me. I would love to know more.
Yeah, because a lot of times I'll write the piece and I don't really have a name for the piece, like when I'm writing it.
Yeah.
And the guy and the team helps me out with names sometime too if I don't have a good name for something. Yeah, I think it's Ancient Blue is the one I like use the motif from.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the one that's in Return to more of that one. But yeah, I like to do that as much as I can and as much as it's appropriate, and just kind of have a to tie things together with the game and the soundtrack. And but I'd say there's not like a ton of that in Corekeeper, but yeah, that seemed like a good time to bring back one of the main themes in the end there in kind of a different way.
All right, so I think I just have one more question from my list before we open it up to like a chat Q&A. Whether there's other video game composers that inspire you. For instance, a lot of the stuff we listen to when I'm doing like co-working or art streams, among the Corekeeper soundtrack, I also have Dale North from the Snacko soundtrack, and I have David Fenn from, I think, Death's Door and Moonlighter, and I didn't know if there were other names of composers that inspired you.
Yeah, I was just starting to make a list before. But yeah, David Finn is a good one. Yeah, I just played the Death's Door not too long ago. Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Yeah, I actually have not played this game too much. I played a little bit, but the music just sounded like really cool on Eastward.
Oh yeah.
And I was looked up the composer's name because I didn't know his name. It was Joel Corlitz. That was really cool. I want to play more of that, but I had just gone on and like listened to the soundtrack on YouTube too, just because the music was really cool. And a lot of the like classic like big names I love, Koji Kondo, Nobuo Uematsu, all the Final Fantasy and everything. Those are all. I really grew up on those Final Fantasy, like the early games, like I think Final Fantasy 2 was like really the one where I was like.
I mean, there's nothing quite like taking chords and turning it into a theme song that it's just like, how do you get something so brilliant off of something as simple as just basic chords to create the Final Fantasy theme song? I mean, it's just, anyway, yeah, simple yet amazing.
Like, oh my god, I love this so much. Shadow of the Colossus, I love that score. I had the composer's name, I might butcher this, Kow Otani, K-O-W, Otani. That one was great. And it was, I'm pretty sure, it's been a long time since I played it, but I think they like only had music like during the boss fights in Shadow of the Colossus. And apart from that, you were just kind of wandering the world. And
I actually never played Shadow of the Colossus.
But I remember the way they even did the music in the boss fights.
It looked cool.
Was, just the way the music adapted to like the intensity of the fight, like it was really like well done, because it was a big like kind of symphonic sound, and I'm assuming they recorded it with them. I think they did it with a live orchestra, but the way they pieced it together during a boss fight and how they transitioned between the different tracks depending on the intensity of the fight was like really well done. I remember, at least from my memory, many years ago when I played the first version, like I haven't played the remastered version. I kind of want to, which even that one came out like quite a few years ago now. But yeah, that was a great score. But I had Gareth Coker on here.
Oh, yep.
The Ori games.
I listened to the Ori soundtrack before playing it, and it was even more magical than getting to the area and listening to the music in that right context and being like, oh.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. A game I just started, which has really great music so far. When I watched the trailer before I played it, and it's called Planet of Lana.
Oh yeah.
And the composer's Takashi Furukawa.
Planet of Lana is amazing. It's a very, very fun game, and if you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend you do. I do have, I think it's an 8-part mini-series. It's 4 to 8 parts. I can't remember exactly how many episodes, but if you want to see, I do have a Planet of Lana playthrough series. Feel free to check that out as well. There is a playlist for it, so you can get the full playlist on my channel.
But yeah, so far, really great music. Disaster Piece I have on here, like Hyper Light Drifter was really cool. I've only played the first one. I haven't played and I don't even know if he did the music for the next one. I haven't looked it up, but but the original, the Hyper Light Drifter, very cool. Yeah, that's what I had on my list so far. But there's so much. Oh my God, there's so much good music out there. It's kind of humbling. It's amazing.
There's a lot. There's a lot. I'm happy that my list of soundtracks that I'm listening to now while I do art is growing, but sometimes I'm just like, no, I just want to listen to these two again.
All right.
There's so much though.
Gotta have your favorites, yeah.
All right, so those are all the questions I had, and I can scroll up and we can start the chat Q&A.
Sure, let me check it out here. How far into the process is a composer brought on to write the music? How does he get the vibe of the game when it's so early on? Yeah, that one. I feel like probably usually people are bringing composers and audio guys on pretty early in the process. I know Corekeeper. I mean, it was pretty early, but they had a playable game, and they had a solid amount of game, and it was playable, and had a lot of the systems in place. And for Corekeeper, when I started on music for that, but most of the time there's at least a good amount of concept art and some art for the game, and maybe something playable when they're bringing the composer on. And like I said before, with the finding the sound of the game. I have another developer called 10 Tons in Finland that I've done a handful of games with, and they'll kind of give me a description, like track links, and a lot of times give like a reference track. In other words, like, here's a track so-and-so wrote for this game, or even for, I don't know, a show or a movie. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a game. And this is kind of the general vibe we're going for. And I'll just kind of base my music or use that reference track as kind of an inspiration. Corekeeper, I don't think we even did any reference tracks for Corekeeper. I think that Corekeeper team came to me because they liked the Owlboy soundtrack. And so basically they were like, we really love Owlboy. Something along those lines, but developing its own kind of identity and sound for Corekeeper. So, I guess my reference for Corekeeper was Owlboy, I guess. A lot of just like experimentation, like in that beginning part, and
you never know which project you're gonna do that's going to cause other people to look at you and be like, oh, we want him for our project, and then everything just snowballs from there.
It's actually really interesting to find out that one video game was what led you to getting called on for the next, because, you gotta wonder how that works sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and I was, I guess I got just started doing video game soundtracks just in general because I majored in film scoring. I went to school in Boston. And I graduated 2021. I moved back to Texas where I grew up. And for 4 or 5 years, I was just kind of, I was teaching piano lessons, and I had a church gig on Sundays, and I would, play some weddings here and there and a few gigs out and about. And but I think by the time it was what am I talking about? 2001, 2005, 2006. After I'd been just kind of doing this for a few years, I realized I was I'm not. I mean, I was composing stuff, but I was I'm not doing what I wanted to do. I'm not composing for film. I'm not composing for video games, and so that year I was determined to find some kind of work as a composer, and so I just I got involved in development forums and sent out lots of emails, made a little portfolio of music, and eventually I got hooked up with the Owlboy team and a few other developers. And but yeah, one day I just kind of had to say, I'm gonna do this. Let's figure this out. And Owlboy was a huge help. Like once. It took a while for us to finish the game. It took almost a decade, but that did kind of lead to, it opened up some other doors and opened up the door to Puckstorm and Corekeeper, and so that was a really really great game to work on, and the people that I worked with, they're amazing, and I got to visit them in Norway after we finally finished the game, and yeah, definitely opened up some doors to continue doing this video game music. So
Really exciting. I definitely understand about sometimes having to just do it. Donut Shoes says, how much of your composing do you feel is collaborative? Does working with live musicians ever change the outcome?
That's a good question.
Most of the time I am just kind of in my little hermit composer cave, like doing my thing, but I would say in regards to like the live musicians, honestly, I wish I could do more stuff with live musicians, because I love doing that, and I'm always kind of trying to get developers to sign off on that. But because I did that with Owlboy.
Costs more to hire
with
live
Owlboy,
musicians.
I wouldn't say like it dramatically changed any process or anything, but I think it did like significantly made a significant improvement in the music and in the sound and the emotion. Just having those live instruments. And I don't know if I should make like an A/B like video or something, but it's like if you listen side by side to like the MIDI version, which I really worked on the MIDI stuff and made it sound like as good as I could, and it sounds good. But even when you A/B like a really nice MIDI mock-up, then with the live instruments and either in place or blended with the MIDI, then it's a pretty noticeable difference. Even to somebody who's not a musician. So I am always trying to bring live musicians into the process as much as I can, and as much as the developers are into it. And at Corekeeper, there's no live stuff at all in Corekeeper.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Yeah, no live stuff at all. And like I said, I'm always trying to make my MIDI, sound as good and lush and organic, assuming that's the sound you want. Like I'm always trying to make it sound as good as it can. I did do a few like arrangements of the Corekeeper music that I recorded with like a small live group.
I'd love to hear that, Jonathan.
Actual OST, there's no live. I'm just
love
to
to
make
hear
sure. Yeah, there's no live stuff in there yet. Yeah. But
sounds like Jonathan's got a whole soundtrack of music for Corekeeper that we have not seen yet. So if you guys want to make a little bit extra cash, release that. People will buy it.
Did you have any influence in the music puzzles in Corekeeper where you have to play the instrument?
I wasn't involved in the actual puzzles at all. I just did like the recorded the sounds like for when you're going into the keyboard to play your instruments, and of course like the sheet music, doing all the parts for that. But as far as the actual puzzles, no, I wasn't involved in the puzzle making.
But he did do the sheet music part, so that's cool at least, because Corekeeper does have a decent selection of sheet music, and it's actually designed that it plays different notes depending on which instrument you're using. So you need a whole orchestra to get the entire song, which I think is kind of cool.
I love the music puzzles so much. I feel like it brings a lot of life to the game. Oh yeah, current favorite band or album or something you're listening to a lot lately, whether it's a video game or not.
I've been listening to, I'm going to pull up her name because I'm going to, Ichiko Aoba, I think. That's how you pronounce it. She has an album that just came out called Luminescent Creatures, yeah, Ichiko Aoba. Luminescent Creatures. She just came out with not too long ago.
Musicians always come up with the most interesting other things. Like, you ask an average person, oh, what are you listening to a lot right now? I'm listening to a lot of Chapel Roan right now. Oh, okay. All right. What are you listening to, musician? I am listening to Ogihara Mansuba, who only has one album out, and you can only get it if you go to this one store in South Africa and buy a copy physically from the person who is like pressing it. Otherwise, you do not have the ability. His music is transformative, and it does all these. And you're like, what? How did you find this guy? That's musicians for you, man. They got some. I'm gonna have to look up this artist that he's talking about now, because who knows what she's got. When the musicians are listening to it, it's usually something pretty damn good and different.
I've been listening to that a lot. A little bit as inspiration for something we're working on with the Pug Storm, but it's really gorgeous. It's very this one, and I think a lot of her stuff is very kind of ethereal and meditative. And
this is Jonathan trying very hard to talk about how she's inspiring his Kiora music without talking about Kiora. I'm pretty sure Jonathan Gear's handling the Kiora soundtrack, but it's all still under NDA right now, as no one's allowed to talk about it. So yeah, it sounds like, I'm listening to this music right now, and we could probably see if that music ends up influencing Kiora's soundtrack.
It has a lot of just like really beautiful melodies and interesting like harmonies. But yeah, definitely recommend Luminescent Creatures. What else? That's kind of been my main one I've been listening to. I don't know if you've heard of the singer Arouge Aftab. She's really amazing. Just very kind of minimalist, a little bit of like jazz influence, but her voice is just like, she has the most incredible voice. Arouge Aftab, AROOJ And then whatever other spare time I have, I like to try to write a little chamber music here and there. I had a piano trio, piano, violin, and cello that I played with quite a bit back in the day, that I wrote a lot of music for, which was super fun. But I don't play with them as much anymore, but I play with them in a tango band, which also adds bass and bandoneon. And so I've arranged some of our trio stuff for them, and I've written a good amount of original stuff for them, and so that's always super fun to when you've been playing with a group of people for a while, and you can write music for them and have it performed, and that's always very exciting, just to have the live music and to really.
There's nothing quite like live music, I mean, getting the music on the computer is fun, and hearing the MIDIs and the digitized versions is all good, but it's nothing quite like hearing the music live. Live is just, it's always better. It just sounds better. It's richer. It vibrates in your body. It's not just something you hear, it's something you feel when you hear the music live. And I feel like that makes a big difference.
Know the people that you're writing for too. So yeah, I like to kind of do a little bit of everything and be able to kind of bounce back and forth between different stuff like that.
All right. Well, I am doing a last call in chat for other questions in case anyone has something. And if I missed your question, don't be afraid to put it down again. Ooh, that's a good question, Donut Shoes. Where do people like us buy or stream your music the most, and how can we support you best?
I've got music. Probably the best thing is to just to buy albums on Bandcamp. And I'm just jonathangear.bandcamp.com. It's got all my stuff on there. But yeah, I'm also on almost all my stuff is on streaming, and most of the stuff is through Spotify. Streaming. Yeah, I know people can play, and then like it's not great. You get paid 0.000 whatever per stream, and but everything helps. But yeah, the most helpful is definitely like just buying albums on Bandcamp for sure.
Last call. I don't mind ending early. I know that you said you were hoping to keep it under 2 hours, but an hour and some change feels like a good natural end.
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to talk for 3 hours.
No, that's fine.
We can find
really
ways to make you talk for 3 hours, sir.
It's a lot of fun to learn the process, especially like I keep telling myself like, oh, I want to download MuseCore again, and I want to like try to figure out where I could start making digital music, but I don't know where to start at all. So, and also
you can start anywhere. Yeah, you could start with MuseScore, start simple, start small. Any step.
Just start making stuff.
Mm-hmm. We did.
Like, I'm trying to learn pixel art right now because I'm trying to work on some stuff for a lore video that I'm working on very, very, very slowly. And I need to learn how to do better pixel art and better pixel art animation. I've never animated pixel art before, but I have to learn how to do it. So I grabbed a sprite, and right now I'm just taking pixel art that I like and I'm copying it so that I can learn the techniques. And eventually I'll start doing original art and then start putting together, the actual stuff. But you got to start small, just start making samples, start copying other people's stuff so you can get some practice in. Just, do a little bit here and there, get your groundwork, get an understanding of the software, and then build from that point. It takes time though. People have this instant gratification need, including myself. Don't get me wrong, I fall into the same trap where you're like, oh, I know how to draw, therefore I can go to pixel art and I can translate it into pixel art super easy. And then you find out that no, you can't. This is going to take months, if not years of practice to get right and to get yourself to a point. And so that can feel daunting for people, because you can't just get good right away. Unfortunately, it's not the Matrix. We can't just upload knowledge. You have to build and learn it, and that takes time. So yeah, he's right. Just start somewhere and just do it, and eventually you'll reach a point where you're like, okay, I can now do this for real.
We can
awesome.
we can end at the beginning. We've got a question from Brooklyn about what is your first step in composing anything?
My first step, I guess, with the video game scores, it's usually the experimental phase, and I'll usually have, like I said, a good amount of at least concept art or idea or reference tracks, and so I have kind of a point of entry, like when I'm doing stuff for that. With other things, like if I'm doing like some chamber music writing for my tango band or piano trio, and this can apply for the video game music too, but I've got a little upright Boston piano in my studio, and I like to just noodle around with ideas on that and come up with different motifs and different ideas. And but a lot of time with the chamber music stuff, I take a lot of inspiration from books and sometimes from artwork, and sometimes I've written some pieces like for the tango band. I wrote one that was like very inspired by a specific like a Edith Piaf song, the Padam Padam, and so sometimes I'll take direct inspiration from a particular song, and I've done that also with a Debussy piece, the Passe-Pied, that little ostinato. And if any of you know that piece, it has a little like a left hand eighth note minor ostinato thing that kind of runs through most of the piece, and kind of used that idea as a basis to start one of my tango band pieces. And yeah, so I usually have some little kind of like crumb of inspiration, either from a book or another piece of music or some artwork. And when I was actually younger and I was like first starting out composing, I like loved to do like imaginary soundtracks for books. And I did a ton of them. Like I read a lot of like Ray Bradbury like short stories. So I'd have the story in my head, and I'd just basically write the soundtrack to the story playing in my head. And I wrote soundtracks for like Crime and Punishment, like the Dostoevsky, and for Les Mis, and the Robert Jordan, the Wheel of Time series. I have a ton of tracks I wrote for those books.
Jonathan, you should have submitted your Wheel of Time stuff to Amazon, because it's like, hey, you guys don't need to hire a composer. I already composed everything for you.
Books. And yeah, so it's really like comes from all sorts of places, like inspiration for kind of getting a track started and the idea for the track. So
Wow, that was actually really cool. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come and talk to us about music and share your process. It was really great to get to meet you, and I hope you have a pleasant rest of your day.
Yeah, it was great to meet you too, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know I did. Trying to think of some final thoughts for it or some interesting things to say. I mean, it was just, I don't normally think about music the way that he does, and it's really cool to get a different perspective and to think, oh yeah, you could just sit there thinking up soundtracks to your favorite books while you're reading them, or just the idea of thinking about music on an everyday level, like the soundtrack of your life kind of a thing. There's a lot of stuff they were definitely talking about, like Motifs. I've got no idea what they're talking about. I'm sure you guys will educate me in the comments, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, if you guys have any questions as well that you're curious about for Jonathan Gear, leave a comment. We can try to get them to him, because I don't have regular access to him, but I've got access to the rest of Pugstorm, so I'm sure I can find out how to get a hold of him somehow. And that was fun. This was fun. I enjoyed this interview, and it definitely puts the music of Corekeeper in a slightly different light for me. Just being able to think about it and how they put it together, how they kind of built the music around how the game was being developed and everything. I don't know what I'm talking about. I hope you guys had fun with the interview. I've had fun with the interview, and if you're watching this, I'm fumbling the outro because I don't know what to say. So everyone have a wonderful day. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay crazy, everyone. Talk to you soon.